Commissioner Klein.
Okay, good evening. Would we all please stand for the invocation provided by Commissioner Barr, and then we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag behind us.
Now in gratitude prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for this time and opportunity to assemble. Lord, direct us and guide us in all of our thoughts, words, and actions here this evening. May we honor and glorify and serve you. We ask it in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to call the evening meeting here at the town of Smithsburg, September 18th to order. With that, I would just say I'd like to thank the town community and the council mayor for hosting the meeting this evening. And we'd like to open it up to the town of Smithsburg leaders to see if you have any report, comment on it from the commissioners.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner reports and comments. Commissioner Klein.
First, thank you very much for your hospitality and having us in your community tonight, and I appreciate the good turnout. That's it, Commissioner Baker.
Thank you. Commissioner Keefer.
Yeah, also thanks for having us this evening in Smithsburg. You know, a couple of weeks ago when we met, I think half the room was wearing purple, so I made a conscious effort to wear purple tonight. Just two of us.
We got that now.
Thank you. Commissioner Moore.
Well, likewise, thank you. It's good to be here, and always look forward to going out and meeting with the various municipalities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For myself, I just echoing the thank you for hosting the meeting this evening, and looking forward to a good meeting, some good information from our staff, and I'd like to personally thank our staff for getting all of the information together, and hopefully it's something that we all can agree on and move forward. Reports from county staff. We have any staff here out in the audience that would care to provide a report? Yes.
I'm Dave Basie, Deputy Director of Environmental Management, Department of Solid Waste and Watershed Programs. My comments are more for the town council and mayor. I'm just here to report that you're all aware of your MS4 permit that your staff has been dealing with over the last few months, gearing up for permit coming in October. Just here to let you know that, county staff has been organizing some workshops that your staff has been invited to and have attended over the last few months. We're going to hold more workshops. We're kind of helping all the towns that deal with the MS4 permit, kind of helping them walk through the permit and getting to the NOI phase, the notice of intent, and gearing up to start satisfying those permit requirements. Mayor and council are welcome to those workshops. We'll try to include those dates for you in the future. We'll probably have one here late November, early December. We'll probably be on the next one. We're also developing a memorandum of understanding with the county and the towns to kind of outline what our responsibilities will be to help, the communities out, and just kind of reflect what the towns are required to do, just kind of to help us and you guys understand each other's roles. Hoping that we get those to the commissioners within the next few weeks for approval, and then get out to the towns for approval and, comments or questions or whatever. And lastly, we are also developing a illicit discharge ordinance, which is part of the new permit. That is currently being reviewed by the county attorney's office. So also we're hoping to get that out within the next few weeks so that commissioners can approve it, and then if the town wishes to, they can adopt it, and that satisfies one of your permit requirements. So you'll be hearing more from us over the next few months. Hopefully, we can work together and, get all the conditions satisfied over the next 5 or so years. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you. Staff have a report to provide. Okay, Town Administrator, any comments?
I do, thank you, President Baker. Before we get into the agenda item, I just wanted to say that we're here to provide not only sewer, which is a topic of conversation, but also other aspects of utilities that are needed to grow. And this is very much an open dialogue discussion. I've asked a number of staff members to come, even if there aren't questions tonight, which you can certainly ask at any time. But after this evening, for those of you who haven't met, to put a name with a face with a name, what have you, to talk about other occurrences of growth and development that you may be interested in. And if you would indulge me, they've taken the time to come here, and some of them will present, but first, Dan DeVito, if you just go through and introduce yourself as staff of what the division or department that you cover, so that the town council can recognize we do have staff here that serve you.
And I did wear a purple tie, that's what I just wanted to make sure. I did get the memo. I'm Dan DeVito, I'm the Director of the Division of Environmental Management. Mark?
Mark Bradshaw, Deputy Director for Division of Environmental Management for the Engineering Services Group.
I'm Sarah Breed, Chief Financial Officer. I oversee purchasing, budget and finance, and green management.
Dave Mason again, Division of Environmental Management, solid waste and water technology.
I'm Steve Rivers, the Director of the County Department of Planning and Zoning.
Rich Eichelberger, Director of Construction. We do all the inspections, services for the county.
Tim Long, Director of the Division of Plan Review and Permitting.
Scott Hobbs, Director of Engineering.
And I think that's Danielle's here from our PR and marketing.
Hello.
Thank you very much. So that is staff involved in this, but also in other aspects that you may want to discuss either this evening or after this evening. And as a precursor to the agenda item, I happen to be taking a required course that is for my PE license just last week, and it was for value engineering. Quite ironic that we hit on this topic, but one of the slides, several hit me, but this particular one hit me, of value, performance up, cost and risk down. And that's really what I've asked staff to look at. Can you drive performance up? Can you drive cost and risk down? And what I'd like to say to try to address this is, there is a solution there. In fact, there are two solutions. So we're not going to walk away, and I think this is how the commissioners go, we're not going to walk away without a solution. That isn't going to happen. It's just a matter of which solution. So we feel we've brought forth to the table some very realistic solutions. And with that, two engineers, three actually, that are with us here tonight. Would you introduce yourself?
I'm Jeff Coleman, a Blue Card Corn Engineer.
Kevin Nash, Marketing Engagement.
Bob and Jack, Marketing Engagement.
So with all the introductions out of the way, President Baker, Commissioners, thank you.
Mr. Davis, you have anything to add?
Nothing bad, President Baker, thank you.
Boards and commissions? Okay, last chance for commissioner comments. Leaders, assistant leaders, anything to add? Okay, citizens participation. Do we have any citizens here today care to participate? Okay, last chance, citizens participation. Okay, Smithsburg wastewater treatment plant upgrade, Mr. DeVito. High and all, it's yours.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, here we are again. A couple weeks ago, we came before you with some information that we were gathering in terms of how are we going to address your needs and the county's responsibility to provide services in the most efficient manner possible. At that time, if you remember, we kind of talked a little bit about engineers' normal tendencies of being vague in some of their commitments. And what happened was we had a lot of questions, and we didn't have enough information to be able to answer all of your questions. So we're very pleased tonight to be here in front of you so that we have additional information. We have information that we believe answers the questions that you brought up. Some of the questions are very good questions that you brought up at our last meeting. And we want to make sure that we try to calm your concerns and recommit to the fact that we are here to provide the needs that the town has designed and the town has identified. So with that, what we've done is that we've looked at it, and I think we talked about it a little bit before. We looked at an alternative plan to look at the upgrade for the Smithsburg water treatment plant. Some of the engineering and some of the information that was used in developing the plan that we were talking about, the initial 0.6 MGD upgrade, was information that had been gathered back in 2006 and 2007. And a lot of things have changed since 2006 and 2007. One of the things, the major thing that's changed, is the town's commitment to upgrading their collection system and to eliminate what we call I&I, infiltration and inflow. And what that does is that it eliminates some of the stormwater that infiltrates into the system that ends up at the wastewater plant that we end up getting to spend money to treat, and actually costs money to the town. So because of that, the average daily flows have dropped dramatically. So because they dropped dramatically, that provides us a little bit of a cushion, and it gave us the ability to look at different alternatives when we were looking at how we upgrade the plant. And when I would refer to the handout, is if you can look at the chart, or look at the chart that's on the second page, not the one that's on the back page. The one that's on the back page is our first initial one. The one that's on the page by itself is the one that's been updated. And I think when we first were here, we were talking about an upgrade somewhere in the vicinity of $1 million to take the plant from its current 0.33 MGD, which is 330,000 gallons a day, to 450,000 gallons a day, as opposed to taking it all the way to 600,000 gallons a day. And what we did is we looked at it, and that's when we were talking to our engineers, and at that time, the engineers were very confident that using the biomag technology that we've employed and already installed at Smithsburg, that we could, in effect, utilize and bring the thing upgraded to 450,000 gallons and provide you with the EDUs and the capacity that has been identified in your comprehensive plan and in a lot of the projects that have been talked about that are on the books. So, Mark, you want to take it from here?
At the last meeting, we had several questions. The primary one, will the biomag system work? We can stand here and say definitively, yes, it will work. Our engineers have run all the numbers. We've had the Aqua Rodents, which is the SBR manufacturer, they ran the numbers, and Vivo has also ran the numbers. So the biomag system will do what we are proposing to do, to take the plant to 0.45. With that, by going to 0.45, we're going to be adding an additional 540 EDUs on top of the 161 you currently have, which will give you a total of 701 EDUs available for developmental purposes. One of the other questions was the time frame. When can all this be done? Since we're only going to 0.45, it's not considered to be a major upgrade, it's only considered, it's still considered a minor. So the review time is less compared to if you go to 0.6. The review time for a major, which is anything over 500,000, will be more in depth, and the time frame associated with that will be longer. Look on the table, we estimate we can have the project completed at 0.45 in the year 2020. If we elected to go with the 0.6 option, it would be 2021 before that system would be brought online. The other question was, is the Biomag an interim or long-term solution to upgrade? It is both. The Biomag will achieve the interim upgrade, but the Biomag technology will also be utilized when we go to the 0.6. So it's there, and we plan to utilize it for whichever option is selected. One of the other questions dealt with cost. If you look on there, you'll see that we've increased the cost of construction up to $2 million. Our engineers have run the numbers. Several of the components we do have to upgrade, such as the UV system that increased our number from $1 million to $2 million now. Like the UV is over $600,000 by itself. We can upgrade the UV system to go to 0.45, but ultimately when we go to 0.6, the UV system will not need to be upgraded again at that time. So that money that's being spent today will be a savings down the road for us because we won't have to upgrade that particular system. The 0.6 upgrade number has actually decreased down to $13.5 million for the construction side, based on the numbers that were run here the other week. And that was the last question I think you guys had as a group that you wanted us to provide better answers to.
Question. You guarantee the biobag will work. Where has it been done recently, or is there another municipality in the state of Maryland, West Virginia, somewhere where they've actually done what you're trying to attempt to do that is actually increased capacity?
So the biobag technology is already implemented at Smithsburg wastewater treatment plant. It's also at the Weinberger wastewater treatment plant and the County wastewater treatment plant in the county. We've also designed a system in East Norriton, Pennsylvania, that also operates the same ballast activated sludge system, so the same technology.
But were they used specifically for capacity growth,
Yes.
or for ammonia?
Well, to allow more treatment to happen in the same size tank. So it's the same principle, whether you're doing ammonia removal or total nitrogen removal.
Okay.
The concept is doing more work in the same tank.
And then, Mark, a moment ago, you said something that this is a short-term and long-term possibility.
It can be used for interim upgrade or the ultimate upgrade of 0.6.
One of the questions that I asked at the meeting in August was, is this going to be in lieu of the $13 million? So if we do the biobag at whatever it is now, $2 million in cost, is that what the county is going to commit to and take the CIP out long-term and only do the $2 million upgrade?
Now, the plan is ultimately we will have to go to 0.6 to accommodate your comp plan. I think in the comp plan you need 580-some thousand gallons is what's listed in the comp plan. So ultimately the plant will need to go to 0.6 in order to achieve the goals that have been outlined. So this is just an interim step before we get to
So
that.
then that goes back to County Commissioner Kiefer's point at the last meeting was, why would we do both and actually spend more money long-term if we just didn't do one or the other? So again, we're back to clarification of, is it in lieu of, or are we going to try to do both of these concurrently?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that.
Thank you.
Okay. What we have right now is to upgrade to get to about 700 EDU. Mark in his numbers deducts out ion, which is more accurate for actual capacity. But you go up to about 700 EDU with the additional gallons to go from 330 to 450. What we're looking for is an approach which does this rather than simply goes from 0 up to 13 million now and then goes over and takes care of you for eternity. Because that's what the 660 does.
Right.
The 660 takes you from here to in theory, never again would you ever have to have anything. With the schematics that I think you may have in your drawings, they do a nice job of explaining you can take in a staged approach, or you can take in a hardline approach, which is to go vertical on your scale immediately. What we've done is try to say a staged approach, just like a developer would do, just like Mr. Cross would do for any type of development. We're going to build these homes as they're needed. We're going to build these EDUs. Our challenge is to stay out in front of you as you build them. I think even in the most conservative approach, this principle is going to stay way out in front of you. It's going to stay probably 20 years out in front of you, even with a very aggressive growth, very aggressive. So our challenge and the challenge to staff has been stay ahead of the curve with a great deal of conservatism, not financial conservatism, but anticipating you may grow much more rapidly than you ever have, still stay ahead of that anticipated growth. So last time I believe we spoke about Mr. Ridenauer, Mr. Cross, and your existing units that you have. And I think we can safely say that these improvements that you're talking about, totals must be approaching, I forget what Mr. Ridenauer's number was.
We estimate with just what was in the room in August, 500 EDUs being potentially used right there. So the $2 million that would get us 540 additional, we'd only net 40 then after the $2 million upgrade, if everything builds the way that Mr. Ridenauer, Mr. Cross, Mount Shadows, etc.
Right. So
Over a great deal of time, right?
Well, we would hope that Mr. Cross would be done within the next 5 to 7 years, and then Mr. Ridenauer within that same 5 to 10 year frame. So when you presented your original numbers of like 1,400 EDUs available, we went to the 660, and it was based off of we have them for eternity. That again was predicated on a 1.2 EDU rate, user rate, or addition rate prior to where we're at now. So while we like the 540 that the biobag may be able to generate for us, if we look at it from short-term to long-term, like I said, in that room that night, we projected it could be 500 EDUs used right there. So we would spend $2 million to net 40. And then the other thing is with the 660, if we're going down this path of going the biobag first, and then the capacity upgrade, the construction upgrade, it's my understanding that Maryland now has like a commodity buyback program that we could get these EDUs, sell them back if we needed to, or transfer them throughout the county long-term. And not just worry about Smithsburg. This is not just a Smithsburg issue. This is a county issue. So that's why I just wanted to make clear that what we estimated in that room is about 500 EDUs that may be used when development is fully out.
And I think one thing that needs to be pointed out in terms of, you're talking about the trading program. The trading program that has just recently been put out by MDE. When it was originally proposed, it was using a baseline of 4 milligrams per liter for nitrogen. And at 4 milligrams per liter of nitrogen, an E&R plant or a plant that's operated very efficiently can probably operate at around 3. So the difference between the 4 and 3 is what was going to be available to trade. Well, when the rules came out, they lowered it to 3. So now, the only thing that's going to be available to any of the plants is the difference between 3 and what you're actually running at. That's an awful tough nut to crack, because it's really hard to operate a plant. And you have to have a factor in there to make sure that during events like we've had in the last couple of weeks, where you've got that ability to go up and down a little bit. If you don't have that cushion in there, and you're going to have a problem. In operating, I mean, we can probably, 2.7 is probably the best that we usually get on a plant. 2.6, 2.7. So you can see that the amount that's actually available to a plant like all of the ones that we operate is going to be minimal, not what everyone thought in the beginning.
We also, to speak to that, you have documentation from MD that would still allow this under either scenario to take place, correct? For your load trade.
Well, we're talking about two different things. The load transfer that's actually written in the permit is still available, and that would be load transfer from here to, it's two different things. That loading is going to be transferred to Kennewick, and that's still on the table. But what we're talking about is the ability to actually trade and buy and sell
Under MPDS.
under the MPDS permit. And I think it's important too to remember, when you ask, is this in lieu of, everything that we're putting in, part of the $2 million, everything that we are upgrading to do the .45, everything, Biomag is in existence right now in Smithsburg is rated for .6. The UV system that we plan on putting in will be rated for .6.
So the upgrade you're proposing will be utilized in 2.6.
Yes, sir.
If I can just clarify for myself here, then if we do the biomag, we're looking at 2020, and then it would remain in fiscal year 2021 for the additional work, or where is it going to fall in your CIP program?
It would probably be split out a few years, and we would monitor your growth and see how your growth is developing. And once your growth approaches the capacity, the budget then would be adjusted. We do adjust the CIP yearly when we do it based on priority, and growth is really great out here. I think it's wonderful. It will be adjusted accordingly, and the main 26 upgrade would be done at that time.
So is anyone able to give me when we think it would fall in the CIP?
There's a chart here in your packet where we plotted 3 different scenarios of growth. 17 EDUs, that's been your 50-year historical trend. Then we said, okay, what if you have 30 EDUs a year, and then also we did 50. We plotted them on there, and the orange line is horizontal would be 450 capacity that we're talking about doing. If you look at it, at the aggressive growth, you're not going to reach capacity to 2032. If we go with your medium growth, it's like 2042. Then ultimately, if you do the historical trend of 17 EDUs, you don't hit the capacity cap until 2060. So I guess where the project will go will depend on which growth factor applies to you, and we'll monitor that. Because Debbie sends us her allocation permits each year saying how many we sold. So we do have records, and we do know how many are being sold, so we can project some type of growth curve on our charts here. And once we get within a couple of years of the cap, then we will start at 600.
Once we identify that we need to go towards that 0.6, what's the time frame of identifying and moving forward with it?
It's probably about a 3-year time frame. The time you,
if we started that process now, what would that time frame?
to go to 0.6, it'd probably take 3 years to go through design, permitting, and overall construction.
So even going to the 0.45 that you're going to utilize the 0.6, it's still not going to change the development time. You go to 0.5.
We'll have this 4.5 done in 2 years.
Right, so if you went from 0.45 and we identified we need to go to 0.6, you're telling us that the time frame would be the same whether we went from now to 0.6 or 0.45 to 0.6 is my question. So once we identify,
We're trying to be conservative in what we're telling you, and obviously, if we're at the 4.5 level and we upgraded a lot of the components within the plant, so the actual change going from 4.5 to 6 is not as much as going from 3.
that's what I'm getting at.
I'm not sure, I mean, that's really hard to put a number on the fence. I would assume that it would be at least, I would say if you were going to be real conservative, you stick with 3 years, I think it would be safe, but most likely it would be less than that.
So now,
I mean, obviously.
we're back to the original recommendation in July, which was to delay the Smithsburg wastewater treatment plant while we go through this process. The one that was originally in the CIP, correct?
The one that's in the CIP is the 26.
Right, which is going to be delayed, which was the original recommendation to the county commissioners back in July.
The 26 is still currently in the budget, but as Rob said, we've been charged to evaluate alternatives, and this is the alternative we've come up with.
Okay, and MDE's okay with doing the biobag in lieu of? I mean, it's something that our developers and interested parties can use to get their funding and everything lined up as far as capacity and.
Remember, the biobag is already used.
Correct, but not for what you, for a different intention, the original.
But the capacity for it to perform like that is there. All we have to do is add components to it too. And I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's $2 million. It's $2 million, but still, we have, biomag is operating one burner kind of community, and it's Smithsburg, and it has been very successful in doing what it was supposed to do. We didn't utilize it for that purpose at Smithsburg, so with the help of the engineers, we were able to look at that and maximize that biomag potential by adding a few components, and I mean $2 million worth of components.
And there's no thought of doing that throughout the entire county to increase capacity and loadability? Or is it just singular to those that you
We've
mentioned?
done it throughout the county. We've got 6 plants, we've done this, and we've already got 3.
You've increased EDU capacity?
No, we have not used it.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, thank you.
But I think that's a bit of a beeline question. There's capacity at Concochic because that was upgraded. Was biomag there before you did Concochic?
No.
So you're talking about different equipment. In the schematic here helps to try to identify exactly that to show from existing to the 4, 5, and then to the 6. See, each system that you have out, if I'm wrong, correct me, but each system that you have out there today doesn't look quite like this. There's different equipment at different places. Some are even different treatment processes, or were in the past. So to say, are we doing this countywide when it's available, absolutely.
And the biomag is, without a doubt, a component to helping the plants achieve the capacity that they have. We spent $32 million to kind of dig. The biomag was a very instrumental and important part of that whole process.
The advantage of the biomag is that you can treat much more capacity in the same size tank versus a conventional treatment system. So in the Smithsburg case, you have existing tanks, you can add biomag to treat more within those tanks. In Concochic, you can build smaller tanks for that upgrade because the biomag process allows you to treat much more in small tanks.
I just have, there's 2 parts. One is to make sure that we have, I understand the upgrades, and I have no doubt that the components, I'm very familiar with all 4 of them and how the mechanics work, and that they can work as they should. The concern that I have is that the people that are potentially here for the development purposes get the answers that they need in order to move forward. With that being said, my biggest concern for the town of Smithsburg is that once this permit is open with the state of Maryland, are we going to have an issue having it reopened with MPD? I work with MPD as well. We all know that that can be a very technical experience. And once they made up their mind, and if this permit is open, and we do it for the intermediate upgrade, is it going to be able to be reopened for a second modification for the full upgrade? That is my issue.
The full upgrade is already in the current permit.
In the current permit.
The full upgrade is listed in the
But
current
that's what's
permit.
being proposed on their table right now, but you have to open it for the intermediate upgrade.
We have to talk to them about what we call a minor modification of the
Right.
permit.
Which opens up the permit.
It depends on, open up the permit, or sometimes it's 2 different things. You can review the permit as a minor modification, or you can reopen the permit, which requires a procedure from plus public hearings and everything else. I don't believe that the minor modification would require that full process. And these gentlemen are going to be right there with us helping us, and they're very used to dealing with MDE. And they feel like that's a reasonable expectation that we could go to them and request a minor modification to go to 24.5 without doing any damage or harm to the long-range existing permit. Any other questions? And by the way, I just wanted to let you know that we are in the process of letting knows that one of the things that we're doing for the town is that we offer them the use of our, and use of not only our camera truck, but our staff, to help them. There's a couple of areas in town where they feel that they still have some I-9 issues. And we've met with their staff already, we've coordinated with them. And I think the 20th, they're going to do the flushing in those areas, and then right after that, we're going to come in and work with those staff and camera all those lines, provide them the information that they can evaluate what the system is and make any decisions that they feel necessary to correct the I-9s in those areas. And that would help also. So we're going to have to do some right after the 20th.
So in layman's terms, I&I is kind of like making sure the roof doesn't leak. Because when it does leak, it just costs more money. So it's preventative maintenance or addressing what's already there. So that wouldn't be preventative, but it's to address cost, and certainly it's a saving for the capacity and
it's about cost, because they pay per gallon, so if it's concentrated storage or if it's water, it's got cost.
Okay, back to her question. The ability to see that the developers have the ability to move forward and accomplish what they need to accomplish. How will that meeting take place, or Mr. Carlson and Mr. Ryan? On their needs?
How do you feel? You can ask.
I mean, I just have two real quick questions to follow up on that. I guess that theme. I mean, number one is in the 2-year time frame on the 450. What time frame are you assuming with regard to the MDE process to confirm that it will be a minor modification process, and then to get that actual confirmation from the MDE that they will approve sort of a 2-step intermediate and then full?
we've actually engaged MDE already. Let them know that this is going to be coming. They'll look at it as soon as we're done studying. That way they know exactly what's being upgraded or proposed.
Okay.
So we'll review it at that time.
So is that a 6-month part, 6-week? Okay.
Preliminary design report will be completed within 6 weeks.
Okay. So then the 2020 timeframe that you used, assume that timeframe from MDE, that's rolled in, you guys. So then the second piece, I guess, is, so what happens now? Like, what is the decision-making process from this point to green light either sticking with the 660 or switching gears and going to the 2-step intermediate? Like, there's already previous allocation budget funds, I think, for the 660 project. So presumably the bulk of the 450 strategy is there. So I wouldn't think it would take much, but I'm just sort of curious, the nuts and the bolts, what happens now? It sounds like a great idea. We have the assurances, the engineers are all saying, great, the time frames sound good. Like, what happens now?
So to start with Jason, right now they're already approved at 30% design. You want to go through this to be sure.
30% of the preliminary design report has been authorized.
Preliminary design. So we didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves before we knew that all the ducks were in a row. And so that preliminary design will go immediately into the next and complete design phase for the engineers that are here today. And from there, they're going to have to speak to the next steps for permitting.
But is there an affirmative action, I guess, required of the county or the town
to greenlight the intermediate design piece of the 450? Or is
Because
it?
the question to that is, when you presented your original recommendation, it was more geared to the north end station, and that we were kind of the, delayed part of it. So to Jason's point, are you, the county commissioners going to commit to the $2 million upgrade now so that our developers and everyone that has an interested party in this are ready to go? Or are we looking at next budget year? I mean, I guess that's where Jason's going, as far as is there going to be a vote on this singular away from the north end transfer, as they were kind of put together on the original recommendation.
There's two things. North end was discussed simply to say that north end is over capacity, not that money was going to flow from here to the north end. That wasn't the intent. Right. So what's in the budget today would allow for this $2 million to move forward immediately. So when it was stated, and part of the confusion between all parties here is that when it was said no delay, it was meant that the CIP, this current fiscal year CIP, there's been no change to it. So I think what Jason's asking, what you're asking, is do we intend to go into that $2 million and use those funds? Unless we hear otherwise from the board, yes. I mean, we intend to go immediately with $2 million, secure the design, get that under contract. They're an on-call contract designer with us, so we can do that immediately. And then step without any interruption right into the construction.
Mr. Slocum, is that a votable option that the board of county commissioners have to do? Because there was no action taken on the recommendation back in July.
So he wants to know, do we have, is it already going to move forward, do we have to vote, as a group of commissioners, to get it? I guess we've already voted on the CIP.
You voted to address the capacity in the CIP, so if you'd like to, certainly can.
So it's already been approved, we're ready to move forward.
And in fact, we
need to take a vote, and you think we need to take a vote, you can have it ready and prepare it to bring it in our next meeting. Sure. Okay. Would you like to? Anything else?
No, you can't touch.
Okay, yes, sir.
Sir, good evening. Mr. Slocum and Vito, Mark, thank you. A detailed presentation, and I appreciate it. I do have a concern about the graphic, the line chart. Because the line chart presumes an incremental pull of permits and in turn EDUs. And we're back to the chicken and the egg problem for the developer. I need to demonstrate to my bank, sorry Mr. Baker, I'm trying to say what you can still see me. I need to demonstrate to my bank that if I build the X thousand linear feet of road necessary that will be deeded to the town of Smithsburg, necessary to create the community, that once the road's built, once the sewer pipe's in the ground, the water pipe's in the ground, the utilities are in, and I have a buildable lot, and at that point I can walk into Debbie and Randy and pull a building permit, that the EDU is available. That in all probability means that I'm going to try to ask for a bond to pre-buy them, or consider borrowing the fund from my bank up front to pre-buy them to ensure that they're there. But that means that for this bar graph, you need a vertical line in 2020 as I walk in the door and suck down 200 of your EDUs. Because
you can't pre-buy the EDUs. You have to buy them as you build it.
So we're back to a chicken and egg of a policy problem. What lender is going to give me the millions of dollars to build the roads to get me to a point where I can physically get to a point where I have a buildable lot to then come in and pull the building permit and pay you for the EDU and take the risk that they're not available or something happens during that construction period. That's the case on the single-family home and the townhouses. When I'm talking to business partners for the senior living, for the adult living component. There we're talking about walking in for a multiplex building and pulling 44 permits at one time, because that's what you'll need when that building is completed. You're never going to pull your construction loan if they believe you might not get certificate of occupancies for the apartments when you're done, because you guys don't have the EDUs.
Yeah, Mr. Cross, I would go back to the two timeframes we spoke about. If we're looking at doing this in 2020, which when we met with Fred, your engineer, and you, Jason was there a few weeks, maybe a few months now ago.
Actually, Jason wasn't there, but that's okay. You kept on saying that I paid my
Thank you
attorney.
so much.
Yeah, I'm sure you see Jason a great deal.
Yeah. So back at that time, you said 2020 about the earliest you'd be able to do something. This allows us 2020 to be there with 701 EDUs. 701 is not infinite by any stretch. But 701 is a whole bunch of EDUs. And it's the reason these other professionals here to help you and the town address other aspects of development, where that 701 is going to put you sewer-wise, that's probably going to be your last concern. And there will be other matters that will have to be addressed, utility, school, public safety, all of those things, which I think you're very keenly aware of. Public safety is part of your development, so naturally you are. This, if anything, puts you in a better situation than most other locations, I won't say any, but many other locations in the county, as to, and even in other jurisdictions outside the county. 701 EDUs, given the historical rate, would easily be able to absorb you, Mr. Ridenour, and all the developable lots immediately.
So Rob, that's why I prefaced my statement that because I get that and I recognize what you're saying, but I think the line graph needs to contemplate that the pull is never going to be a small linear incremental pull. That people are going to walk in and it's going to look a whole lot more like a very steep ladder at the beginning, and then it may reserve.
And historical trends also reflect the previous administrations. And obviously we have different mayor and council now with a different idea and a different perspective. And things change, things always change.
So just to be clear, Mr. Slocum,
Thank you.
in 2020, we would have the 701 EDUs. That's what we're projecting. We'll have 701 in 2020.
Unless some of the 138 that you've already got started.
Right, I'm just going by the biomax. So
right.
my concern is, and I guess it goes back to Jason and Mr. Cross's timeline, is that in 2020, we'll have somewhere 700 EDUs.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to finalize it in my brain, so I can move on to other things, to keep it simple. The county is prepared to move forward with the .45. And then, is it safe to assume we'll reevaluate the necessity of doing the .60 at some point in the future? Is that a safe summary of what we're getting to here this evening? We're going to definitely move forward with the 4-5. And then we will reevaluate growth, other things, to determine for future the .60.
Every year in December, we redo our CIP budget, and every year in December, we look at all the projects and see where they are, what the priorities are, and what the needs are. So in December, we will evaluate the Smithsburg project, when it needs to be done based upon what happened the previous year. And we do that every December when we do our CIP. And I think the commissioners want to see the final version on about January and further on in March? May.
Always ask the CFO.
And remember that we receive information about water usage, sewerage, and growth from the town, from you all every month.
Okay. So then I can assume the county came in prepared tonight to say we're okay with moving with the .45 and .60 is off the table. I mean,
it's not off the table. Just, I'd like to reframe the whole thought process of saying we're going to go from 0 to 100 in no seconds by 2021. What we're going to do, which is what Mark did explain very well, is our job is never done. It's not like we can build something and say, man, that was great, now our career is over. The job is very cyclical. Every year, and this team that you have in front of you works together to be sure with you and the developers and the attorney that we do it properly. So, as I stated from the front, to stay in front of your curve is essential. And we've seen it in engineering, construction, a number of times. We get too far ahead, and then things can become very inefficient. We can wind up remaking things that we made 20 years ago. So the answer to your question is absolutely and entirely yes. We will constantly reevaluate.
Yes.
Real quick, hopefully. Is it too early to estimate what the, I guess, reevaluation trigger point is going to be? That if you're collecting the information from the town of Smithsburg on its water uses and it is increasing steadily, and we're looking at these EDUs decreasing, do you all have a guess as to, is there a magic number? Is there an amount of water usage that if my client calls and says, hey, there's another development going in, it's X amount of lots, I'm doing my math with the available EDUs, where are my EDUs? I guess what is my answer to them, or at what point does the water usage in Smithsburg trigger your evaluation?
Probably when we approach the 90% out of the 700. So probably by 70 less than that, we would probably be the trigger point to move the 0.6 into immediate future instead of long-term future.
Okay, thank you.
And with all, that was entirely accurate, but it depends also on how steep your curve. If your curve, Smithsburg growth is going like this on this chart, then we're going to be looking at that sooner. If it's going like this, that's probably going to be closer to what Mark said. So, number of variables in place to make that time frame work.
Mark, can you clarify, please? Is that 701 number including your 10% reserve?
No, it does not include our 10% reserve.
So your true number is somewhere in the 770 range, do the math, 775. You've taken the 10% out, and that's putting you at 701.
If we sell all 701 EDUs, the plant will reach its 90% capacity rating.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Staff, I think you've done an awesome job, and if you agree with me, let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone's monitoring and Smithsburg monitoring to make sure we know what we need to be every year. And the staff's going to remain consistent for the most part. The elected officials, they're not going to have so that's what I'm going to put my trust into is the staff. I think they've done an outstanding job. They're hopefully will help get we want to see be successful. We're successful. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Motion and second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5. Thank you.